Hi friends, hope you're well. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know how heartily I recommend Death and Taxes, and how eagerly I was awaiting the studio's unrelated follow-up. The good news is, it's finally out, and it's actually insanely fun. And the great news is, I think it might be exactly what you need. CraftCraft Fantasy Merchant Simulator sees you as a novice crafter, fresh from the guild, opening up your own shop in the chaotically charming town of Windspell. Your clientele range from a humble groundskeeper to an excitable cartographer, and everyone in between. If you've played Death and Taxes, you may even recognize an old friend among the sea of new faces. As you point and click through your first 11 days as a merchant and professional crafter, you'll be getting into the rhythm of forging weapons and tools, perfecting your customer service voice while abiding by the Crafters Guild oath, and scavenging reusable goods to really give your creations that personalized touch. Plus, there's a baby eldritch horror who drools acid and makes the walls leak nightmares, but that's late game stuff and I didn't get any footage. There's a lot to say about CraftCraft, so let's start with the price. I paid $16.97 because I took advantage of the release discount and also bought the Craft and Taxes bundle. If you're interested, it's also bundled with Trash Goblin or Coffee Talk. Currently, if you buy it without bundling anything, it costs $20.79 without tax, and yeah, you can probably tell, in my opinion, it's more than worth the price. I actually think I enjoyed it more than Death and Taxes, which I wasn't expecting, but it's still true. Though CraftCraft stands on its own, like Death and Taxes, it sweeps the player up in a short, politically motivated story. Only instead of grappling with an endless existential crisis as death itself, you're now a talented artisan who finds joy in fixing broken things and turning raw materials into one-of-a-kind commissions. Plus, you have your owl cat to feed and rent to make. You're a little too busy living to consider the opposite. You also have the option to customize your character. You can either play as an anthropomorphic cat, moth, a human, or an elf, and you can further style your hair and pick the outfit you'll be wearing for your playthrough. I didn't play around with this too much because I've been following this game closely enough that I got comfortable with the character creator through 2 versions of the demo. But what's really cool is, after you decide how you look, you can pick your backstory as well. Not that any of that stuff is crucial to the plot. To be blunt, you are this game's NPC. Your customers are the ones playing with magic, adventuring to far-flung, dangerous destinations, and trying to become one with the swamp mushrooms or whatever this guy actually does. You're just the person who makes those adventures possible. But there's a whole vibrant, exciting world spinning around you while you run your business. And that's what makes CraftCraft so special. You can be as involved or as apathetic to the world outside your door as you want. You can check the news and grumble about taxes and pet your owl cat as often as you like, taking trips to forage for materials whenever you need to spruce up a commission. And none of it is rushed. You end the day when you feel like it. The game doesn't force you to hurry the storyline. You can also decide who your character is, even if they're not the hero or the scholar or the chosen one. Sometimes people will ask for help or charity, and other times it's best not to trust the fetching smile on the other side of the counter, not if you value small businesses anyway. Your actions have a direct influence on the ending you get, so make sure to pay attention. Just remember, all work and no play is doing a disservice to CraftCraft's world and characters, so when you feel like kicking back and socializing, visit the tavern. If you're interested in romance, this is also where you can start or continue getting to know your customers on a more intimate level. Honestly, I had no idea how this worked, so eventually I just started clicking on every flirty option I saw. It was a really fun experiment, but if you're looking for a dating sim, this isn't it. It's a couple of flirty interactions and a short blip in the story's ending. Pretty minor in the grand scheme of things, but still really sweet. Trust me, even if you don't want romance at all, CraftCraft is still incredibly fun. I didn't realize how badly I wanted a game like this until I tried out the first version of the demo. A chill merchant sim with a plot that feels like shrugging on your favorite sweater on the first day of fall. If you're a cozy or casual gamer, I think you'll love this most of all. The soundtrack is going to be stuck in my head for days, and the gameplay loop is just the right combination of repetitive and relaxing, and the learning curve isn't steep at all. I will say, if you have issues with dexterity in your hands, it may take you a while to perfect using the grindstone and filling in blueprints. I ruined so many blades trying to sharpen them to perfection, but that's because the grindstone is sensitive once the metal has already been sharpened, so keep an eye on which section you're actually working on. By the end of my playthrough, I'd actually come to enjoy the grindstone, and I looked forward to the rhythm game. But blueprints are still finicky, even rotating materials around and making them smaller with a screwdriver, so I do the best I can and call it a day. On the bright side, there are accessibility options to turn off both the rhythm game and sharpening blades, so if those mechanics are holding you back, now they're not, and you can craft to your heart's content. Honestly, the dev team has been pretty responsive and pushed a couple of hot fixes since release, so if you have an issue, they'll be happy to help. Some of the commissions are purposely tricky, so I do wish there was a way to refuse any we didn't want to do, like in Wormhole, not just the charitable ones, and fixing Mailrath's Astrolab did result in some frustration. It was like the individual parts were magnetized, no matter how many times I pried them apart with a screwdriver. But this was the biggest problem I experienced, and a quick reload fixed the issue. The further I got into the game, the more I anticipated what each customer would order. Make sure to jot down their requests in your notebook so you can craft the perfect product, and keep an eye on the cash register to make sure you can pay the rent at the end of each day. Which seems exorbitantly high, but I'm not a landlord, so what do I know? I've seen some of the negative reviews on Steam mention issues with the voice acting and overall audio quality. For what it's worth, I didn't notice any discrepancies, and that's usually the first thing I catch. The audio was mixed well, and though the dialogue doesn't always match the text, the meaning is always the same. Ultimately, when considering if CraftCraft is worth your coin, I think it's important to ask what you like in a game. The story is this game's beating heart, but it's not just the actual storyline you're unfolding as you play. It's the individual, character-driven stories of the customers you serve, some of which intersect. Most don't, which somehow adds to the feeling that Windspell is much bigger than we ever get to truly behold. But all of them have their own charm and leave a memorable impression. I laughed so hard I snorted, I rolled my eyes, I cursed at that astrolabe, I reacted. And to me, that's the sign of a great game. I've heard the devs are currently experimenting with the possibility of endless mode, which means your adventures in Windspell don't have to end when the storyline does. When and if that update drops, I will be eagerly returning to Windspell. If I could change one thing, I actually wouldn't. CraftCraft was worth the wait, and I can't wait to try for a different ending. If you've made it this far, thanks so much. Let me know in the comments. Have you played CraftCraft? Is it your type of game? For my money, I think the Craft and Taxes bundle is always the best choice, but I've heard amazing things about both Trash Goblin and Coffee Talk, so I don't think you can go wrong. If you have played it and you loved it, who was your favorite character? Did you end up romancing anyone? If you could travel to any fictional world, where would it be and why? I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time!